Bartenders of Reddit, what is your best way to drunk customer story? A few years back I was a bartender at a local pool hall. At the end of my shift, if people were around, I would lock the door and have a few drinks with them before going home. This particular night 2 buddies showed up just before closing and were hammered. They had been out on one of their big ass Black Russian nights. They would bar hop all night trying to see who could get the largest Black Russian served to them. The doors were locked and they were hounding me to make them drinks as no one had gotten a larger drink than the other. Deciding that I needed to sober them up before I served them any more drinks and deciding that I clearly needed some entertainment, I set up a rather large obstacle course as a race to see who would get the large Black Russian and win the night. These two were very good friends and very competitive. Of course drunk as well. The obstacle course soon turned into a full contact sport, including a body slam and a chair being thrown at the other. The winner ended up playing air guitar solos of Bon Jovi all night on one of the pool tables. Wins all round. Well, I'm not nor have I ever been a bartender. I do have a story involving a bartender. I lived in San Francisco at the time, and had actually just turned 21. My friends thought it would be funny for me to only order the drink sex on the beach at every bar we went to. I had probably 9-10 by the time we got to the last bar. I went outside to have a cigarette and one of the bartenders was out there. We struck up a conversation and this lady comes over. Now I was pretty inebriated at this point, so I do not remember what we were talking about, but I do remember asking the girl to kiss me. The girl looks over at the bartender who just shrugged. So me and said lady start kissing. I get aggressive and practically bear hug her. The bartender starts laughing at me. I said what? At which point he admitted the girl was his wife. Now for some reason I freaked out and thought I was going to get my ass kicked. So without saying a word I turn around and start climbing the fence behind me. Needless to say I failed pretty hard and ended up failing on my ass on the other side. Next thing you know I am looking at a brand new Mercedes AMG and decided it would be the perfect place to urinate. I pissed all over the front hood and windshield. To this day I can still go back to that bar and the bartender will give me free drinks for pissing on the bar owner's car. When I worked as a waiter for a high-price country club, one customer after about 24 vodka tonics asked my manager to get him to Long Beach Airport because he wanted to go Vegas. Long story short, my manager told me to drive him to Long Beach, 45 minutes drive, in his car, and he ordered a private plane. On the ride there I kept asking him, "Are you sure you want to do this?" He came back and said, "Bro, what do you think I am, a pussy?" Long story short, the guy I guess stayed up all night in Vegas and gambled away $3.2 million after spending the $29,000 on a private plane. The next morning he had no idea how he got to Vegas and frantically called the country club to ask what the happened. I work at a country club. And you would assume the members are more civil than regular bar patrons. This is not really the case. At a member luau, we found out that a male member was sleeping with another member's wife, which turned into a fight around the pool area. The male who was cheated on was shit-faced and got his ass kicked to hell before the cops came. What a fun night. Girl at the bar had a few too many. Decided to end the night by taking a shot of tequila before they left. Took the shot. Without the glass leaving her lips, puked back up into it. Needless to say, it was also all over the bar and herself. I signal a door guy and back to get her out and clean it up. The bouncer comes up to her and tells her it's time to go home. She slurs just after I finish my drink and nightcaps her own vomit back in her mouth. I couldn't stop laughing. Our local dental clinic had a farewell party for one of their employees. At the end of the night there were about 6 people left at the bar and they wouldn't want to leave and continue drinking. They were all pretty gone and my partner and I really wanted to get them out of there so we can clean up and go home. My partner busts out some shot glasses and goes, "Shots on the house." The group goes nuts and start high-fiving each other. My partner then proceeds to pour shots of Coca-Cola into each glass and gives them to the group. As we put the glasses on the counter, one of the girls in the group goes, "Oh no, not Jack Daniels." She and another girl start protesting that they won't drink shots while the guys in the group chide them on. The girls finally agree to drink and my partner and I led the last toast of the night. I take my shot and then proceed to look at everyone else take theirs, reacting as if they all had a hit of moonshine. Oh my god, I'm done for the night, no more for me. Oh goodness. To start, I had one quiet guy at the end of the bar for most of the night. Polite, quiet, good tipper, let's call him GGG. I worked at a bar in Brooklyn, New York. It was probably around 1:30 on a Friday night, also known as amateur hour. Some crust punk and his haggy dread-haired slam piece walked in and ordered fucking 7 beers and shots Sid and Nancy style. I'd usually happily oblige and take their money, however we had recently been wrist slapped for not carding, and so I asked for IDs. Sid immediately busts out a political fuck the system rant, while Nancy proceeds to try and knock all of the beer taps forward. At this point, I'm busy behind a 25-seat bar, and all I can do is try to signal my bouncer to get these assholes out. The bitch climbs over the bar and starts trying to drink from said knocked over taps. I couldn't believe it. My bar back is RFK and I'm basically about to cry. Then I see him. Good guy comes behind Sid, grabs his hair along with Nancy's and knocks their skulls together. Nancy is knocked out cold. Sid starts mumbling nonsense, tries to stand up, pukes on Nancy, and passes out on top of her. It was worth cleaning up for the extra hour. Thanks, GGG. I've been a bartender at topless strip clubs for most of the past 9 years. Got a bunch of stories. I saw a drunk, and likely high, guy come behind our bar and grab our knife that we use for cutting limes. He was holding it to his own head and his friend came over to try and talk him down. He then stabbed his friend in the eye. We had this regular, a really nice guy, tipped well, was super polite, but he used to get pretty drunk. One day he was sitting at a high table, and falling asleep in his chair. He would start sliding off the chair, then startle himself awake for a couple minutes. I told the bouncer to get him out but he ignored me. 2 minutes later drunk regular slides all the way out of his seat. He tries to grab the table to keep from falling and ends up on the ground with this heavy table upside down on top of him. I never saw him again. But my favorite just happened this past Halloween. We had decorated the bar with fake cobwebs and other Halloween decorations. A very drunk, very young customer decided to get a lap dance from one of the girls. I don't know how it happened but by the end of the dance he was entirely tangled in the cobwebs. Looking over all I could see was his hands flailing as he tried desperately to get out. I have never laughed so hard in my life. The bouncer finally had to cut him free with a knife. And it was just in time. As soon as he was freed the kid ran to the bathroom and puked. Not a bartender but I was the cashier at an all-night convenience store. This guy walks in, completely plastered, wearing a hoodie with one of those huge front pockets. He goes over to the fridge real suspicious like, and starts so slyly stuffing the pocket with frozen burritos. Meanwhile, I'm watching the whole thing unfold, not even subtly staring at him, but he keeps peeking my way and then looking away and snickering like he's Thomas Crown. Finally, he takes a burrito to the microwave, unwraps, pops it in, starts her up and waits for it to finish. He brings the warmed burrito over to the counter, snickering all the while, and pays for it. I charge him $34.90 for the burrito and the 9 other burritos in his pocket. He looks at the register, then back at me, then back to the register, then to me, and says that's an expensive burrito, you're lucky I'm so hungry. He pays, and leaves. The thing that makes me laugh the most is the idea that he woke up the next morning with a hoodie full of melted burritos most likely. I had 2 drunks sitting at the bar, completely hammered. They came in together and were obviously acquaintances but got into a heated disagreement. Suddenly one lurches to his feet and, quite nimbly, grabbed his bar stool and swung up back to hit the other one, like an executioner with a sword. None of us moved because he did it so quick and it looked like it would all be over in an instant, but he froze, held his pose for a couple of long seconds, then just toppled over backwards. There was a collective sigh of relief from everyone but the victim, who was also passed out face down on the bar. Oh man, I've got a good one. I bartend in Chicago, and this last summer the block my bar is on was having a huge street fest. No cars, booze, booths, and corn on the cob everywhere. There were drunks all day. Cut to late in the night, most of the drunkies have toddled off to bang or barf or whatever most befits them. Our kitchen is closed, and most of the bar is emptying out. One of our cooks went downstairs to change, and came back upstairs with his face completely white, and says there's somebody passed out in the basement. There's blood and chocolate cake everywhere. Instantly tell everyone the bar's closed and they need to go home. Call the cops and ambulance. Turns out, some drunk goons somehow toddled into our employees' only basement. Got into one of the freezers and began to go beast mode on a mostly frozen chocolate cake. Then bashed his head and bled everywhere, then fell asleep. The EMTs made sure he was alright, then wheeled him off in a Hannibal Lecter style gurney to keep him upright as he puked all the way out of the restaurant. If the cook hadn't found him, guarantee you he'd be dead. The follow-up to the story? It's a big basement, and one of our servers was storing his Vespa down there. When I helped him bring it upstairs, we found chocolate cake all over the handlebars. Drunk bastard tried to ride a scooter in the basement. Man, I'm glad it needs keys. My college roommate was once seeing this girl from out of state and he always made the drive to her. She finally visited after about 2 months of dating and we all decided to go out for drinks. I didn't notice, but apparently each time my friend and I ordered drinks, she would chug hers and order one as well. Thing is, we were pretty heavy drinkers and this girl was maybe 110 pounds soaking wet. Suddenly, she mutters something about going to the bathroom and runs off. After about 20 minutes of her being MIA, we decide to go check on her only to find her passed out in her own puke with her face laying on the toilet seat. We clean her up, she vomits a few more times and we finally wrestle her into the car and head back to the apartment. And that, kids, is how I met my friends, now wife. I bartend for weddings at a hotel in the city I live. One night, I had the sister of the bride come up and ask if it was fine if she showed me her tits in substitute of a tip. I just laughed it off and made her drink. She then proceeded to pull down the straps from her dress and revealed to me a pair of the nicest tits I have seen. One night my bouncer had to kindly ask the guy to not finger blast his female acquaintance at the bar. The guy took offense and decided to take this classy lady elsewhere, which was fine, but before he walked away he went to high-five the other bartender who was unaware of the previous whereabouts of the guy's hand. Everything started happening in slow motion. No, me and the bouncer yelled as his hand made contact with the bartender's. She shoots me a confused look as I pantomime diddling a girl's fun parts and mouth the words. He was finger blasting her. The reaction was pretty priceless. Worked in wedding hall. We had this one small reception with 50 invited, most of them French Canadians. This is an Italian wedding hall in Quebec, and everyone was having a lot of fun and getting plastered. Except for this guy. This guy with a tiny mustache. He's just drinking straight whiskey glass after glass and he's not looking like he's having any fun. He's just at a bar, drinking alone, not talking to anyone. So, as I serve him a last drink telling him that I'm cutting him off after just as the groom approaches my bar. Tiny mustache guy chugs the whiskey, turns around and yells at the groom. It should have been me. Then punches him straight on the chin with all his drunken guy momentum. I had a hard time trying to explain security what had happened over the radio. I had a regular who was a midget. He would always order 7 and 7 talls, which I found hysterical. He was obnoxious and pretentious, and if his steak was cooked properly he would wave a $20 in the air and loudly proclaim he wanted to tip the cook. One night he got really drunk and began proclaiming, "I may be a little guy but I got the biggest dick in here." I told him to shut up and he began laughing so hard he fell off the stool, a much longer drop when you are 3 feet tall. In the end I wound up carrying him like a baby. I was a 27-year-old girl carrying a midget. It was one of the best nights of my life.